morning. Try that again. Good morning. I want to welcome each and every one of you here today and to thank you for taking time from your busy schedules. Today is Veterans Day. Freedom is never free, but it is a bargain at any price. And what is that price? That price is what is given in American blood, American sweat, and American tears. A veteran is someone who at some point in his or her life put service before self, integrity in place of immoral selfishness, and honor above all else. Many people speak bold words but take no commitment, which would require action. My brothers and sisters in arms have demonstrated their commitment by putting on an American uniform. But just what does it take to put on a uniform? These men and women give up most of their freedoms in order to ensure the continuation of a lifestyle that many take for granted. Their life in uniform becomes a whirlwind experience. Any innocence and all of their youth is removed. Feelings of fear, loneliness, anger, confusion, doubt, and sorrow must be fought with and defeated on a continuous basis. Throw that in with the physical separation from the world that they once knew, and add to that the physical, emotional, and psychological demands that must be overcome in order to ensure the freedoms that we all enjoy. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of choice. The list goes on and on. These servicemen and women are the very epitome of the word commitment because they live a life of service before self, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, under a microscope for the world to see. They brace themselves with the help of their comrades, their friends, and their families. They know that those outside of their circle can never truly pay them for their sacrifices, but they embrace any acknowledgement given. They know that peace is just a word, an ideal that will never become a reality. They pray that they will be the last generation that must put on a uniform. But in their hearts, they know that there must always be those in uniform standing ready. America is the land of the free, only so long as it is the home of the brave. If you want to thank a veteran, words are nice, and nodding a smile will work as well. Send a donation to Wounded Warriors if you wish. Think of them when you sit down to a nice holiday meal and say a prayer for someone who thousands of miles away, wearing an American uniform, may be sitting alone, eating cold rations, weapon at the ready, ever vigilant. Nothing would be a greater tribute than for each and every one of you to make the choice to live a meaningful life, live with integrity and honor, and be part of something greater than yourselves. For many of us, the greatest fear was coming home. We knew that we had been forever changed. We knew that the world had changed, but we did not know how those around us had changed, or how, or even if, we would be accepted. So at least on this Veterans Day, give them a smile, for they were soldiers once, and young. Thank you. Please rise for the presentation of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Road, heads, hug!
Colors. Colors turn. March. Present. Colors.
Alicia Foster from Central Elementary School will now come forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Colors. Ready. Post. colors, colors turn, march. Left, 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 right, right, left.
The next portion of our ceremony will begin in darkness. Those who have served and those currently serving in the United States military are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and internment. As we begin our ceremony this morning, I call your attention to the center of the stage. You may have noticed the table set before you. It is filled with symbolism. I will explain. This table is set for our POWs and MIAs, prisoners of war, and missing in action from all wars. They are not with us this morning. Their chairs are empty, but saved for their hoped return. Let us remember their absence.
This table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. Remember. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember.
The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood they have shed and sacrificed to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. Remember.
The slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of the bitter fate. Remember. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot trust us with toast with us this day. Remember. The chair is empty. They are not here. Remember.
The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from captors into the open arms of a grateful nation. Remember.
Let us remember and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families. Let us remember the United States Army, honored by Cadet Evan Whittier. Let us remember the United States Navy, honored by Cadet Jenna Gray. Let us remember the United States Marine Corps, honored by Cadet Monica Pando. Let us remember the United States Air Force, honored by Cadet Elisa Martinez. Let us remember the men and women prisoners of war from all branches of service that are too often forgotten. Let us remember them.
of November, 1918, at 11 a.m., the guns fell silent all across the front in what was then called the Great War. It was the most destructive and wide-ranging war the world had seen at that time, with a total loss of lives somewhere between 36 and 37 million soldiers and civilians. It was not called World War I, since not many envisioned another World War, World War II, just a generation later, where the casualty rate would be more than double that of the Great War. In November of 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day, with the following words: "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us, and because of the opportunity it has given America to show our sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations. Take pride in knowing that it was a U.S. representative from Emporia, Kansas, Edward Herbert Reese, who presented the bill that was signed into law by another Kansan, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, in 1954, which changed Armistice Day into this national holiday, Veterans Day. While this holiday is meant to honor the living veterans and to give recognitions and thanks for their sacrifices, I can tell you that a veteran sees this great day as a time of reflection. A reflection of what was, of what is, and what might have been for those no longer with us. And while our founding fathers did an outstanding job of giving us laws that proclaim and outline our freedoms, it is the soldier, the sailor, the airman, and the Marine who bear the responsibility and the great burden of protecting those freedoms. Some went before me and set the example. Some went with me and shared my burdens. Some followed in our footsteps, reminding us that we did make a difference. We share a bond not restricted to time or to distance. My brothers and sisters in arms, I salute you all.
Please be seated. No matter if you serve or are currently serving with the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, or Coast Guard, we are forever grateful for what you have sacrificed for us. Your sweat and tears are not forgotten. In your honor, we will play each branch's official song. When your branch's song is played, please stand to be recognized. Army veterans, please rise. Navy veterans, please rise. Coast Guard veterans, please rise.
Force veterans, please rise. Marine Corps veterans, please rise. Semper Fi.
I'm honored to be able to introduce our guest speaker. His biography is on the back of your programs. This man has served his country for most of his life. His accomplishments and awards are legion, having served in 67 foreign countries during his career. It gives me great pride to introduce you to a fellow paratrooper from the 101st Airborne Division, Major General Larry J. Lust, United States Army, retired.
Well, you know, for the students, just to let you know, you can go to sleep, and I have no idea if you are or not from up here. Mark, thanks for me for that kind of introduction. Before we get started, I made 3 notes here to kind of set the stage here. One, what's the senior service of our armed forces? ROTC cadets, you know? Oh, I heard it. Speak up. Army. Just make sure we got it straight. That's who's the senior service here. The other part is ROTC cadets. I appreciate your participation here and the professionalism which you have shown in this ceremony. The last thing is I've already marked about 3 pages of my speech, given what Mark has already given. So, again, I want to welcome you to today's ceremony, and I'm honored to be here speaking to you today on such an important occasion. We're here today to honor those who have served and are still serving, and remember the sacrifices they made and the courage it takes to defend this great nation and our liberties. We're here today to honor our veterans, to remember their achievements, their courage, their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. I would ask the veterans to stand. We've already went through that, so we'll skip that part. American veterans come from all walks of life, but they share several fundamental qualities. They possess courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity. All qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Now, they didn't ask to leave their homes and fight on the borderline. Many of them didn't even volunteer. Their neighbors did that for them. And they did not go to war because they loved fighting. They answered their call to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways when the nation's call came to them. Since the first shots at Lexington and Concord were fired, starting our War of Independence, American men and women have been answering the call for duty to the nation. Millions of Americans have fought and died on battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and way of life. Today, our service members continue to make sacrifices, and even as we lose troops, more Americans step forward and say, "I'm willing to serve." As you mentioned earlier, veterans and groups have lobbied for a change. President Eisenhower in 1954 signed H.R. 7786, changed Armistice Day to Veterans Day, thereby honoring all veterans of every war and conflict the United States has encountered. Today, people across this country will gather to remember, to honor, and to pay gratitude to those who served our country. Our gathering here today is just one small spark in the flame of pride that burns across this nation today and every day. It's not a lot, but it's one small way we can honor those who have sacrificed so that we can live in freedom. Your presence here today and that of the people gathering across America is a tribute to our veterans. It is a way we can say we remember. For the soldiers who shivered and starved through the winter Valley Forge, to the muddy doughboys in the muddy trenches of France, to the platoon patrolling in the hazy jungle of Vietnam, and to the young men and women patrolling in the mountains of Afghanistan, we remember and honor them all. Now, before I end my remarks, I want to sure to recognize a group whose sacrifices have far too long not received the spotlight deserved. This group is the spouses and children of veterans. I thank you, the spouses and children of veterans, for what you have contributed to the defense of this nation. I know you have lived through difficult times and carried a heavy load to keep the home fires burning. From a personal standpoint, let me tell you what Kathy, my bride of 47 years, and our two sons sacrificed for our 35 year service. Both sons attended 9 schools before they graduated from high school, were members of at least 4 scout troops before making Eagle Scout. One son had to switch high schools in the junior year, the other in the senior year. Kathy had to change jobs several times due to our frequent moves. In our 35 and a half years of active federal service, she set up 20 homes, which means we had our belongings packed up and moved 20 times. Collected, each time brought more dings and scratches to furniture, and yes, the occasional box that was missing and never found. Due to deployments and training exercise, I missed most of our birthdays, anniversaries, and many important firsts of our sons. Now, while families do not deploy, they deal with a great amount of stress. And this stress is heightened with each late night phone call or long periods without news from the trooper. So when you're thanking a veteran for their service, do not forget to thank the family members for their service to the nation. So at this point, can I have the lights brought up, please? Can somebody bring the lights up? Okay. I got a question. Really got 4 questions here. Does anybody know what the national debt is today? Anybody, number? $18 trillion. Now, for you students, let me put in context to you. It's estimated Britney Spears made about $8 million last year, doing 55 concerts. To pay 1 day of interest on $18 trillion, she'd have to perform a concert every day for 3 years. Does anybody here know what was asked for by the Defense Department budget for FY16? $534 billion with another $50 billion for operations, contingency operations. I'll get it here. Does anybody here know what the cost of a new F-35 jet is? By the way, there's 3 costs. The Air Force is cheap. They're $148 million. $148 million for every one of those aircraft. The Marine Corps is $251. And the Navy's $337. We just launched the present Ford class of aircraft carrier. Anybody here want to estimate what that thing cost us? It cost us $12 billion. $12 billion. Now I know some of you, let me ask you, next question. From the students, Can anybody here tell me what's the difference between the deficit and the debt? Politicians keep talking about a balanced budget and going to do away with the deficit. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, if they balance the budget next year for the next 100 years, it will not touch the $18 trillion. You got to take in more revenue than you spend to start bringing down the debt. Some of you are asking, well, why is he covering this on Veterans Day? The last two chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff have publicly testified the greatest threat to this nation is national debt. Why would you say that? Well, at some point, we're going to get to a point where people don't want to loan us money. And then we're going to be in a fix. Now, you youngsters out there are all saying, well, why is that old man up there? By the way, I know at least 3 of you are thinking I'm going to die before we get off this stage. I know, because I've been in your chair. The reason I'm talking about it, and I want you to understand it, is you're going to pay for it. Not me, not these folks down here. It's going to be you and your children are going to pay the $18 trillion. So when people talk about what we're spending on defense, everybody in this room has an obligation to ask, why is it that much? In my 35 and a half years of service, I learned several things. The one I remember about money is, the money that's not yours, a lot of people spend like it was free money. You have every right and obligation to question, why do we need that much? You youngsters need to get involved. The bill's going to come due on your watch. And that's an awful burden the previous generations are passing down to you. World War II was estimated to cost $4.7 trillion. In the last 5 years, we have put $7.8 trillion on the national debt. Almost twice what it cost us to fight World War II. Not counting the human lives. So I want you to think about that here on Veterans Day. Is a debt that this nation has is going to come due on your watch. So things you may have thought you were going to do, it's going to have to be paid, which means you either do one of these things. You either produce more, so you sell more, greater taxes, or you increase taxes overall. So having said that, it's been my pleasure to have been able to serve in the U.S. Army for 35 and a half years. I was fortunate when I got out. I was picked up as a contractor for the Army for 4.5 years. My wife said I could go for 1 year to a contractor in Afghanistan. I stretched it to 4.5. The last 5 years, I was an instructor at Command General Staff College, so I have about 45 years association with the U.S. Army. I can just shut it off. All the services are filled with good and honorable people. DOD, the Pentagon, is filled with good and honorable people trying to do the very best they can. Yes, in every service there's a 0.5% that's scuzbags. Don't judge everybody on those. There's a whole bunch of people every day trying to make things happen. So as you go about your day to day, think about those folks. Because somewhere tonight, I guarantee you, there's a sailor, airman, a Marine, a Coast Guardman, and soldiers stand and watch somewhere, wondering if anybody thinks about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention and your time. God bless America. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for completing our ceremony today. Please accept a small token of appreciation from us.
All right.
And also for Mrs. Bless, please accept this small token from us for your years of service and sacrifice serving with your husband, as the gentleman said before, as the spouse, as an unsung hero. Thank you.
more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The colors of the flag are symbolic. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity and innocence. Blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Have you ever noticed how the honor guard pays meticulous attention when folding the flag? During ceremonies, the flag is folded 13 times. Here we describe and demonstrate the 13 folds. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of their lives in the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature, for as American citizens trusting in God, it is to Him we turn in times of peace as well as in time of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country, for in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all her enemies, whether they can be found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood and mothers, for it has been through their faith, their love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of the men and women who have made this country great has been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to the Father, for He too has given His sons and daughters for defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon and glorifies in the Hebrews' eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in the Christian's eyes God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The 13th fold, or when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our nation's motto, "In God we trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today. Please stand with me in the playing of taps.
impressive ceremony. On behalf of Lyons High School USD 405, I'd like to thank you, General Lust, for your message this morning and taking time to come out and celebrate Veterans Day this year, along with your bride, Catherine. Thank you guys for coming out today. I'd also like to thank all of you veterans in the audience this morning for your years of service and sacrifice to our country. In fact, Lyons High School students, Lyons Middle School students, and Central School students, let's show a round of appreciation to our veterans. I'd like to thank our ROTC unit and cadets for putting on this very, very impressive ceremony. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Chief Master Sergeant Foster, Tech Sergeant James Eskett, Mr. Cutler, for organizing and conducting such an impressive assembly this morning. This concludes our Veterans Day Assembly. If I could have the lights come up, please. At this time, I'd like for the veterans to stand. Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you. I'd also like to have the veterans who have RSVP'd for us to eat lunch with us this afternoon. If you would please stand and exit to the cafeteria or mess hall at this time. We'll dismiss you first.